Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Thursday, October 10th, 2024. I'm your host, George Kurt, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcap. Cody, missed you on Monday. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be back, even though it'll only be for a couple episodes before I'm gone again. Marcus did a great job filling in for me. I am a little depressed though. This will be my last Sunday before turning 30. Or I guess I turned 30 on Sunday. So rip to my 20s.
Third life crisis. I feel for you. I'm not far behind you, but we're gonna keep the positivity up in this
Thank you.
episode.
I
How's
need
that
it. I
sound?
need the positivity booth going. Get hyped, talk some football, get back into doing what we love.
Yes, sir. We're gonna get you back up to speed as well as our fans who may need it. Make sure you follow us at the Couch GMs, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. I really have to change that from saying Twitter, but everyone knows us Twitter anyway. Feel free to DM us with any fantasy questions you have when we're off the air. But as always, we are on the air 6:30 Mondays and Thursdays. Drop your questions in the chat, and we will answer them as we get them on the show. Cody, why don't we jump into a little Week 6 fantasy preview?
George, this is 2
Yeah.
weeks in a row. There is a big bold letter that on our rundown that says sit back, relax, let's chat. And I have my mouse clicked over that bumper, and then you just jump right into the preview. Don't even want to talk about the Jets firing Robert Saleh.
I was going to tie this into the Monday night game, which we are not going to talk a lot about in this as we do preview Monday night on our Monday show. Cody's just trying to get ahead of me here. He thinks he knows better. Jets did fire Robert Saleh. They play Monday night versus the Buffalo Bills. It seemed like there was a whole lot swirling around this firing, including him having to get escorted out of the building. We had a couple of comments from Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show, basically talking about how it's a business and it's hard to see someone that he's connected with since he went to New York moving. And one of the reasons he went to New York, even having to be moved on from. But the Jets needed a change very badly. And I think Saleh might have got caught in the crossfire. I know Marcus was a big proprietor of it's a lot of Nathaniel Hackett's fault, but do you have any opinion on what if this is the right move or the wrong move for the Jets?
I mean, I don't think I get what you're saying. You need a change, you need a spark. Yes, the Jets needed that. They fell to 2-3. They had high expectations. They have a really big matchup against the Bills this week. I mean, they beat the Bills this week. They're both tied at 3-3, sitting atop of the division. So, like, this could change very quickly for the Jets. And you mentioned Nathaniel Hackett. He did not look great in Denver. He has not looked great since he left Green Bay, or if you want to go all the way back to Jacksonville when he got them to the AFC Championship game as the play caller. Seems to be a little bit stuck in the old ways, and not has grown to the more motions, the more all the razzle dazzle. He still wants to play that West Coast that the current NFL landscape is not doing. He's still on staff, though. He did lose his play calling abilities. That's going to go to Todd Downing, former Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator, Raiders offensive coordinator. So he's been around the league. But to your point about Aaron Rodgers, making some comments on the Pat McAfee show, like he loved Robert Saleh. That's one of the reasons he came there. Not to get conspiracy theorist about with Aaron Rodgers, because that could be a rabbit hole we do not want to go down. But
We don't have enough time on this show for that, let alone
that
in this
old
little segment.
saying, actions speak louder than words. Back to the shove that after, like, and he was like, "Oh, we didn't do anything. We scored a touchdown, but we still need to win the game." Kind of like the way he played it off. But it seems like there has been a rip in their relationship coming back. Maybe it was all the way back to when he missed that mandatory to go to Egypt. Maybe it's the way he's been carrying himself. We're not in the building. We're not. No, I don't want to speculate. It could just be time for a change. We've seen that before. We've seen coaches get fired. I think Robert Saleh. It sounds like he's going to take the year off and regroup for next round of coaching interviews. I think he could easily jump on as a defensive assistant or an offensive assistant. Sometimes defensive coaches do that. They join the offensive staff to help with game plans. I think he'll bounce back on his feet. He's a good coach, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
I definitely think he's still going to be in head coach conversations in the next cycle. So that's a great point there. And it's hard to tell when you're not in the building if it's Rodgers' fault, if it's Salah's fault, if it's someone else's, because we really don't know. But there is worth saying, like, with how they spent the picks and the money on Rodgers, they know that this is their window. They're committed to him for now, for I believe
Hmm.
another this year and next year,
At
if I'm
least.
not mistaken, at
Yeah.
least. So you kind of have to do what you have to do to try to make this work. And I guess they thought a coaching change at this point, a change of the offensive play caller was the way to go. And we'll see if it makes any difference. And we'll also see if they're still in the trade market to make a big move.
I
Marcus,
think
welcome to the
the
chat. Hackett was stripped of his play calling. I know that you are very happy about that.
yeah, I mean, sure. We'll see how much of a difference it truly makes, like, with this offense. Like, Rodgers banged up a little bit. He has limited ankle. He's gonna play, but the quarterback coming off an Achilles injury with already limited mobility gets even more limited back behind an offensive line with 2 tackles over 35. Like, it is definitely something to monitor. That offense might just still stink. Like, we might just get to that point. Uh, but Bill Belichick finally going to go to the Jets next offseason, and he's going to bring Josh McDaniels back, and we're going to see that Tom Brady quote when a couple years ago, if anyone remembers it, saying that Aaron Rodgers would have 5,000 passing yards every year in his offense, and they're going to regroup the Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels in New York. That's my bold prediction for 2025.
That's funny because Belichick's been going to like 3 or 4 different places according to people so far. So I don't know how we're going to clone Bill Belichick to coach the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Jets at the same time, but apparently that's going to happen.
Yeah, and we'll see. And with since Marcus brought it up, the Hackett stripped of his play calling. I know that he was a big proponent of him getting let go after last week. Uh, does that mean anything good for Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson? Like, do you have less concern with them, or do you think with the pending Adams trade, which it sounds like he's most likely going to the Jets still at this point, especially with Derek Carr getting banged up in New Orleans, all signs point to him going to New York. Are you still fading those offensive options?
I don't think I'm fading him to the point where you don't put them in your lineup, especially with bye weeks here this week and all the injuries we're still dealing with. Um, there was a lot of targets given to Garrett Wilson last week, like 22, and he caught 13 balls. Like, you hope that you can bring up that reception percentage, but like, it shows that they're really trying to get him involved. And a lot of times there's a boost when you make an offensive play calling switch. That 1 week kind of like, coaching change. Oh, we need to get in gear here. So I like that. And I think Brees Hall maybe is a little banged up. Maybe it's just the scheme wasn't working for him, but they're going to find ways to get him involved.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And I think Brandon in the chat summed it up perfectly, and we can end this Jets conversation on this. Does it really matter what they do? It's the Jets. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Moving on to the rest of the slate, we do have 4 teams on bye this week: the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Dolphins, and the Rams. Key players to replace, we're looking at like Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, and Aaron Jones, Hill, Waddle, and Achane in Miami, and then obviously Kyron Williams in LA. Really quick on the Dolphins, there's thoughts that Tua is going to be back in week 8. So something to keep an eye on there. Obviously not confirmed. He's going to be seeing a specialist over their bye week this week to see more about what's going on, but they're still very optimistic he's going to be back soon.
My fantasy team hopes so. And I know
So
a
do
lot of
all the Hill and Waddle owners out there. So
yeah, I mean, that would be nice. I think it's my World Cup team. It might be another one of my teams, but I'm pretty sure it's my World Cup team. I have Hill, Waddle, not Hill, or not Waddle, Achan and Kyron this week. So I am losing a lot of points. So if you're playing me this week, that should be good for you. But yeah, I know a lot of people are on the Tua should just retire, and I think at this point, like, he has all the people behind him. If they say they clear him to play, and he wants to continue to play, more power to him. Like, I'm not gonna judge him for continuing to play. Might not be what I would do. Might not be what I would advise my family to do. But I do think we should let Tua make the decision for himself.
just learn how to protect yourself and slide. That's all I can say. But We're starting off Sunday early again this week, like we did last week. We have a string of international games, 9:30 East in London. The Jaguars being hosted by the Chicago Bears. And worth noting there, because this is the away game for the Jags. They are actually in London for 2 straight weeks. They have their annual London home game next week. And then we can talk about this next week, but I'm interested to see if them being across the pond for an entire week before a game will give them an edge over the team that has to travel early in the week and try to adjust. But for this one, same schedule as the Bears. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about as the Jags have just been brutal so far, but the Bears are starting to surge.
Yeah,
So
I think the Bears still aren't, beating any team that gets in the way. They're still an up and down team. But you're starting to see Caleb find his rhythm, find his groove. They're getting their playmakers involved. DeAndre Swift is starting to come alive a little bit. DJ Moore looking a little bit better. They still got a ways to go before they're like a, legit playoff contender. But they are making progress. And I think against the Jacksonville Jaguars, albeit it is in London, it is a team that they are used to playing, or a place they're used to playing, not a team. I think the Bears will take care of business.
I think so too. And I'm really keeping a close eye on Rome Odunze this week as he finally seemed to start to overtake Keenan Allen last week. It's the most targets he's had in a game where Allen was active so far this year. So I'm interested to see if that continues or if it's going to be that kind of messy wide receiver 2 situation. And we kind of hope that DJ Moore just kind of takes over the wide receiver 1. A lot of people have a lot more draft value in him. Jaguars side, there's a lot going on with the Travis Etienne injury that's had him limited. And we're seeing Tank Bigsby take a lot more snaps on first and second down at the goal line. And I kind of have this feeling that that could continue and that ETN is going to be used a lot more third down pass game between the 20s. Not necessarily the best for fantasy owners, but if you are still somebody out there who happens to see Tank Bigsby sitting on your waiver wire, go out and make the ad now, speculative at least. I know a lot of people
Dude,
were
we're
targeting him
past.
over this last waiver
I
cycle.
say you're past speculative. I think he went for like $25 in the World Cup in my World Cup league.
I dumped 30 on him, so I'd be shocked too. But
Yeah. So uh, Tank Bigsby has been a guy that people have been talking about adding, and this week it finally kicked in. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's still that offense. Like ETN, even when limited, he's still going to get touches. So I haven't bought in completely on the Bigsby hype because like you're almost hoping for a touchdown, and this Jags offense has not been very good at getting many of those. So we'll have to wait and see. And I did just want to remind everyone that we talked about, they're going back to back in London, but I did look it up because I thought they did that last year. So this is year 2 of going back to back weeks in London. They did
my
week
bad.
4, they did week 4, week 5, I believe it was last year. My only question is where is the game from Woody's bedroom or Andy's bedroom Toy Story themed?
Yeah, we didn't hear anything about that this year. It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, who didn't love a good Toy Story matchup with NFL games?
I guess we're sticking to just the Nick game that happens either late in the season or in the playoffs, and Disney Plus got out of it. But we'll see if that comes up again later. That was very fun to see something different. Early window of games, we have the Eagles returning from bye against the Cleveland Browns. Really quick, how much of a dumpster fire on the Browns from a scale of 1 to 10?
Uh 10, 9. We'll say 9.
Say 9.
10.
You're being
10 'cause
generous with 9. I would have said 12,
yeah,
but
I was gonna say 11, and then I was gonna be like, just like Brandon said, it's the Jets, it's the Browns. Like they're a hot mess. Dumpster fires, the perfect way to put it.
it's very sad to see. But we've already kind of beat to death the how the Browns have screwed up thing. The Eagles are supposed to be getting AJ Brown and Devontae Smith back this week. Obviously, throw them right back in your lineup. The Browns have not been great. It's nice to have Saquon Barkley back as well. I think Dallas Goedert's a play. My biggest question, Eagles defense has been very up and down, mostly down, one up. Going against the Browns, are they a streaming option?
Uh, they could be. I think there's some better options out there. Um, without we're gonna talk about all these games, but I would take the Buccaneers over the Saints. I'd take the Falcons over the Panthers. probably even take the Bengals over the Giants. I know they just beat the Seattle Seahawks, but I would do that. Um, so it's pretty much like Bengals or Eagles is kind of my line for that based on streaming options this week.
I like it. Not much else to really say here. We can go to Texans Patriots because the Texans have a lot of news going on here. I feel like our group chat was a little bit quiet because you were kind of busy last week, but the biggest thing that I heard was Tyler going Nico Collins from CJ Stroud is then with a heart emoji. And immediately after, we're like, Nico Collins pulled his hamstring on that exact long touchdown play. He now hits injured reserve. Really sad to see for somebody who was wide receiver 1 so far on the season and really looked to be breaking out to be one of those premier wide receivers in the league. But now I guess it's the Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell show.
Yeah, that stinks because when we talked in the offseason, we went back and me and you went back and forth. I was Nico Collins guy. You were a Tank Dell guy. Tank Dell was a little bit banged up to start the season. Can he break out now? The Texans also are, getting Mixon and Pierce back at practice in limited roles this week. So the Cam Akers experience that has been awful is not, looks like it'll be over. But to answer your question, like I think Dell is flexible this week, especially with the wide receivers and options that are out. Like Aaron Jones probably when you drafted him was your third running back or maybe your second, but you might need to fill a flex spot to replace that. Hill and Waddle, maybe you wanted to play one of those two spot, maybe an Xavier Worthy too, not a guy we talked about. That was already a flex play. I think you could play Tank Dell in this role. It is a pretty good matchup against the Patriots. They are going to start Drake May this week, so maybe you want to start the Texans defense as a streamer against a rookie quarterback. That's something to pay attention to as well. But yeah, throw Tank Dell in your lineup and let's see how these Texans roll. I feel like the Texans their record is better than they've been playing. I feel like they keep winning close games, which is good teams win close games. That's crucial. That's important.
Yeah.
But they've had, it took them to 3 seconds left to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. It took them a lot to beat the Bears. I forget who they played off the top of my head last week, but I know that one went down to the wire as well. So like
I believe it was the Bills.
Yeah, it was the Bills. They got
And they
the
were
win.
ahead in that game and blew a lead. So
Yeah,
not the prettiest of wins there either. Yes.
I mean they're winning games and they're in a division that they're going to win at this rate. So that's good
Especially
for
if the
them.
Jags keep beating the Colts.
Yes, especially if the Jags keep beating the Colts.
No, but that's a great point. Like the Texans have not been playing at their best, and now you can argue their best offensive players out. I think them getting Mixon back, if he does come back, is a huge boost to try to, be able to calm down CJ Stroud and get the run game going. But even if they hold off Mixon one more week and you get Dameon Pierce back in there, you'd have to think he'd be limited a little bit, but you'd hope it would help the run game because Cam Akers just hasn't been the same since his last major injury when he was still back in LA.
Yeah, I think all
So
three of them are going to be. I think they'll both end up getting active, and it'll be a 3 running back. Akers will probably still lead the league or lead the team in attempts this week, just
he
because
might
both
lead
these
the
guys
league in
come.
0-yard carries too, but that's fine.
He probably does that as well as they work these two guys back.
Yeah, so trying to avoid the Texans' backs this week as much as we can. But you could throw Mixon in and hope his couple carries turn into something if you're desperate. Like I know I'm desperate in a league where I have Mixon and currently have Ramondre Stevenson in my lineup, who happened to do better when he got benched after last week. But
That was a
I
wild
don't.
situation too.
Yeah, it was such a wild situation. This is why we don't like fantasy football because it is completely unpredictable. But
Guy gets
sometimes you just have
benched,
to
has
throw
his
something
best
against the wall.
best game of the season. Like what?
Yeah. Sometimes you have to throw something against the wall and hope. Sometimes you have to chase points, and normally chasing points isn't good and hope. Sometimes you're just in injury and bye week hell so bad that you're just playing whoever you literally can. And at least there's some opportunity there. He's going to get some carries, and you just hope he doesn't fumble again. But not pretty.
Definitely not pretty. And this game probably won't be a pretty one either.
It will not. But what has turned into being potential of game of the year, I'll hype this one up a little bit. The Washington Commanders have looked fantastic. And they're playing their
Did that
neighbor
hurt
in the
your soul?
Baltimore Ravens. Hmm?
Did that hurt your soul? that line, the Washington Commanders, has looked fantastic as you wear a Philadelphia Eagles shirt right now?
A little bit. I mean, props
Is
to
it
them if they can actually turn into a franchise that has success. I feel like in my entire lifetime they have not had success, so it almost feels like the little brother that you're kind of proud of at the moment until they actually start doing really well, and then it'll completely turn into the I hate this team. It hasn't gotten to that point yet for me.
Oh, I understand. I still don't hate Detroit. It's like, good
It
for you.
Yes, exactly. See, you understand because Detroit has been bad for so long as well until this past 2-year
You're
stretch.
also a Chargers fan, so it doesn't they're not like your number 1 rival.
I
Dude,
hate
that was
Patrick Mahomes for other reasons, not that one.
you don't hate Patrick Mahomes.
I do hate Patrick Mahomes, but that's fine.
I'm gonna have to pull up all the texts from the words I can't say on a PG podcast of you talking about Patrick Mahomes.
From what, 2019, 2018?
Hey, you can't love a guy that much and then hate him all of a sudden.
When you live long what's the line? When you live long enough as a hero to become a villain, something like that. It's that story arc that's happening.
Sure.
Okay. Commanders at Ravens, and because tight ends have been the talk of the town lately, and you missed out on the best week tight ends have had in the entire season last week. The Ravens had 3 tight ends involved last week. Go figure. It wasn't just Likely and Andrews. We already also had Charlie Kohler starting a touchdown and making a
Who?
couple of plays. I still want to start none of them, but like all of a sudden, like they can just pop off and have great games. I don't think Kohler's anywhere in discussion for anything, but
Again,
Isaiah
who?
Likely back in conversation.
Sure. Great. Woohoo. Like, yeah, you're playing Mark Andrews because you drafted him and play Mark Andrews.
I don't even know if I'd argue that.
What?
I think Andrews is borderline droppable still.
Okay, sure. I do. Last time I was on the show, I talked about we should do 5, just get rid of the tight end position. I've come around to that. Like, sure, whatever. You do what you want to tight end. If you want to start Andrews, start Andrews. You want to start Likely, start Likely. You want to start Hunter Henry against the Texans, start Hunter Henry. Because to your literally, there is not a single tight end outside of maybe Brock Bowers, but you don't even know about that because of the Aiden O'Connell switch, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. There is not one tight end you can put in your lineup with confidence.
Taysom Hill.
No, stop.
I'm
You cannot
not
put
confident. Taysom
like
Hill because he gets opportunity.
hang on, like just go on a complete tangent right now. Look at the bye weeks this week. Mahomes, Kelsey, Waddle, Hill, Achane. 5 players you've wanted to bench since week 2, but their name value has told your soul you cannot bench them. You might
Yes.
have a better week this week with them out of your lineup, and just because they're back next week doesn't mean they have to return to your lineup.
Cody out here angry so far. But no, you really have a good point, especially about Mahomes, because Mahomes has been mediocre at best so far. And if you're someone out there who like ended up getting Baker Mayfield to replace him in the bye week Phil or Kirk Cousins, you literally probably will have a better week out of your quarterback position than you have. So we're going to be out here breaking fantasy football norms over the next few weeks, I feel like, especially seeing if point totals happen to go up this week. That is very interesting. Maybe the Hill and Waddle and Achane thing will sort itself out with Tua coming back, but that's a completely different situation than we're talking about with Mahomes.
Yeah, play Zach Ertz. There's my tight end advice.
Zach Ertz the best tight end in this matchup. Anyway, back to Commanders Ravens. Like, this is the game where you really want to play everybody. I mean, the Commanders don't have a fantastic defense. They've been keeping them in games, and the offense has just been scoring a million points so far. The Ravens traditionally have a great defense. They've kind of been up and down so far, but with how good the Commanders have been playing, I'm playing pretty much everybody, ignore the tight end mishmash, in this matchup.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well.
Why don't you talk about something you follow a little closer, Cody? I'm just kidding. Cardinals at Packers. Give me your insight.
Cardinals at Packers. Play Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft was the breakout tight end last week. One long touchdown, one short touchdown.
Yeah, and that was with Luke Musgrave getting activated as like emergency, expecting to work his way back, re-aggravated that ankle injury. He's likely headed to IR. They picked up some guy off of the Falcons practice squad to come in at tight end. So definitely think you can play Kraft. You need a tight end. You and Marcus talk about the Romeo Dobbs situation. No, that happened third. Did you even hear about that by the time you guys recorded?
No.
So did you? If you don't know anything about Romeo Dobbs, dude got suspended last week because he came to practice Wednesday, no issues. Thursday, didn't show up. No called, no showed. Friday, no called, no showed. They actually sent people to his house on Thursday to check on him, and he was there. He ended up getting suspended. Apparently, he was disgruntled with his role, which he is second in the team in targets without Jordan Love. So some people are speculating because Watson got hurt that they anticipated that, he thought he would get an uptick, and it looks like they were going to feed Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, which we saw Dontavian Wixon get more involved. And he was kind of being like the short straw in the game plan. So it kind of frustrated him. He's back this week. Everyone says they're moving on. I know Marcus is a big proponent of this, is like anytime a wide receiver speaks up, expect them to get targets this week. So I think, I'm not saying go out and start Romeo Dobbs, but maybe in your DFS leagues, or if you need a spot fill in your flex, like there's probably a good chance he catches a touchdown this week. He gets a target down in the red zone or something like that he can cash in on. Don't expect Christian Watson to be back, but Jaden Reed has looked lights out and has been one of the best slot receivers in the league so far this season. So he's quickly taking over as the guy. Everyone question was, which Packers wide receiver are you going to play? And the question is quickly becoming Jaden Reed.
So you got the Texans correct with Nico Collins. I got the Packers correct with Jaden Reed. We'll take it as a tie.
Do you not remember what I said? I just said Jaden Reed was going to lead the team in targets and catches, but I thought Dobbs would have more touchdowns.
Let me have my moment.
Dude, I'm not you got married 2 weeks ago. You had your moment. You're done with moments. I don't know why
talk
I'm
about the
yelling
team
at
that's
you.
going to win the NFC South then? And you can talk about either of these teams, honestly. The
You're not
Buccaneers
even
and
going
the
to talk about the
Saints.
Cardinals?
No.
Like, not even a little bit.
Okay, ahead. We'll talk about the Cardinals.
Play Marvin Harrison Jr. That's really all I got.
He's also been up and down, but I mean, the upside's there. And I mean, Kyler Murray's been fine too. He's been a top 10 quarterback. You can play him.
Yeah. Kyler Murray, I think you can play. I mean, James Conner, he's still in your lineup. Like, you're playing your guys. Like,
Yep.
There's no Jair Alexander. It's still up in the air if he's going to come back this week. He's missed the last 2 games, which could be a boost for a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. without the Packers' top corner. So we'll have to wait and see there. This should be a fun one. Could be a lot of points, could be low scoring. The Packers and the Cardinals have both been inconsistent on offense to start the season. They have good weeks and bad weeks, and we'll see what happens when these two face off.
I like it. Now we'll get to the NFC South. Buccaneers at Saints, and this is normally always a barn burner, a lot of points scored kind of game. Saints, though, dealing with no Derek Carr. He's out with an oblique injury. Rookie quarterback Spencer Rattler getting the start. And I think the biggest question for me is a quarterback change going to finally be the thing that gets Chris Olave going? Because it has been bad -1 game this season.
Probably not. I think Spencer Rattler looked good in preseason. I think he has his moments. Spencer Rattler reminds me a lot of not in his gameplay or specifically, but like Will Levis. Will Levis will make 3 throws in a game. You're like, holy crap, this guy you could build around. And then he'll make 4 throws. It's like, bro, what were you looking at? And I think we're going to see a lot of that from Spencer Rattler this year. I know there was some hype about him coming out, being like the sneaky guy after all the quarterbacks at the top, someone that has value. The offense, I think, will play to his strengths. They'll rely on the run game, be a good week for Alvin Kamara, as long as they can run it against the Buccaneers, which always is a tough task. But Chris Olave, he's another guy. It's like borderline. Do you want to play him? You got to, because we drafted him. There's no one else to replace him. That's the other thing. Not a lot of replacement options out here for all these people we don't want to play. We don't want to play anybody. But yeah, maybe it gets going. Maybe they force feed it to him. Very similar to how Michael Thomas used to be in the Saints offense. Just 10-yard slant, 10-yard slant, 10-yard slant.
Might be what he needs to get going to. But all right, I'll make you play the game you usually make me play. Chris Olave or Brian Thomas?
Chris Olave. I almost say Chris Thomas.
Chris Thomas.
Let's go.
Because we were talking about Michael Thomas. You're welcome. I would go Brian Thomas on that one. And then we're going to still talk Buccaneers here, but the Colts are without Michael Pittman. So Josh Downs and Alec Pierce both getting major upticks last week in a big offensive performance. Would you play either of them over Chris Olave?
Probably not, but like I wouldn't. But like I wouldn't also be like, bro, what are you doing if you did? Like I think the Brian Thomas one is closer than the other two. But yeah, especially because I think the Titans defense is better than. I mean, the Bears defense is pretty good too, but I think the Titans defense can, and their divisional
Bucks defense.
Sorry, Bucks. I don't know why I said Bears. Because you asked me about Brian Thomas, and they're playing the Jags. I know I'm not talking.
Okay, no, got it.
See,
cool.
We're good.
We're good.
George and I haven't talked for a week because I was gone all last week, so we're still trying to fill each other out. See how things are doing. We both have been competing for host roles since none of us want a podcast together. It's been a while. I'm glad to be back with you, bud.
Me too. And now you're going to leave me for 2 weeks soon too, so this is a great time. But Buccaneers side of the ball, we're still dealing with the unplayable backfield really in Tampa Bay because it's been so back and forth, and there's not been a lot of production out of Rachaad White. But I mean, their passing game has been fantastic. Maybe Chris Godwin's a little bit more inconsistent, but Mike Evans has been great, and Baker Mayfield, top 3 fantasy quarterback so far this year. Not something we expected.
No, we did not. But good for Baker.
Good for Baker. The Baker revenge tour is really ramping up this year.
For sure. I love it.
Colts Titans. We did mention this one, and I did mention Michael Pittman sustaining a back injury last week. He is on injured reserve, out for at least 4 games. Josh Downs, since he's been back, has been getting fed so many targets, but it's kind of hard to tell how the offense is going to shake out if they decide to put Anthony Richardson back in. He's still limited. We're not sure what his status is going to be. I really like him with Joe Flacco. And with Anthony Richardson, I kind of get concerned with a lot of the Colts wide receiver targets.
Yes, I 100% agree. I don't think they're going to play Richardson this week. I think Richardson will come back when JT comes back.
And JT did not practice Thursday. He's not expected to come back this week. Be another week of Trey Sermon, which he did generally fine, like you would expect most backup Colts running backs. It seems like when JT's out, they do fine, which is pretty good when you're trying to find a fill in your fantasy lineup. So feel free to play Trey Sermon.
Yeah, sure. But speaking of the Titans, I have a fan question.
Okay.
It's actually from Tyler. He can send a fan question, but he can't join the podcast. So everyone roast him in the comments for, caring more about his fantasy than the team. I actually had to type this out for him because he texted the group instead of just chatting like you all should do.
He also spelled fantastic.
That was me. I typed this message.
I don't know. I think he probably put Juan Jennings.
Yeah, probably. I was trying to talk about Anthony Richardson at the same time. But yeah, Juan Jennings, that was an autocorrect, the Juan part. The Jennings was just a misspell. But him versus Seattle, D-Hop versus the Patriots, or Lazard versus the Bills. Pick one.
Part of me wants to say Lazard because of how him and Rodgers have been on the same page, but the targets haven't been there. I'm probably, weirdly enough, going D-Hop. I've heard a lot of things about him being more healthy coming into this game, and they're really trying to put an emphasis on getting him involved again. So it's not pretty no matter where you go. The biggest reason I'm not picking Juwan Jennings is because everyone's starting to get healthy in front of him, and he probably is going to start to fall back into that, 4th, 5th target role, and then you're just praying for a touchdown, as opposed to D-Hop should be number 1 or 2 target, and Lazard's just not getting the volume for me to feel confident in playing him unless you're in super desperation mode.
Okay, so I know I was kind of MIA last Sunday versus games, and I've been trying to catch up and prepare for the show, figuring out all these things. So one thing I don't know is, has DeAndre Hopkins done anything? Like, did he start to look good last week? Like, I don't even understand how he's kind of in this conversation right now. Uh, but if you can enlighten me, or I'm just going to look up his stats while I'm talking here on what he did, because I feel like he's been a bust of all bust to start the season. Obviously, he's been banged up. I get that.
No, he has been banged up, and like I said, I've heard a lot of things from sources that they're gonna putting a focus on trying to get Hopkins involved. Honestly, it hasn't been great. He did have a great game against Green Bay, maybe boosted by a touchdown, but he would have had 10 fantasy points regardless. But no, it hasn't been great, and he was on bye last week, so you didn't miss anything.
Okay, so that's true. He was on bye last week, so I didn't miss anything. Yeah, I'm not playing Hopkins. There's no way. Like, I dropped Hopkins this week. That's goes to show you like where I'm at with him. But yeah, if you want to play, I'd probably play Lazard of those three.
You're shooting for a touchdown between Jennings or Lazard, and honestly, your better chance lately probably is Lazard. Like I said, the only problem I have with him is he's getting 4 targets a game. He's just on a touchdown streak, basically. So his numbers have looked good because all he does is keep scoring touchdowns, and that always scares me because I don't expect a wide receiver to be able to pot 20 touchdowns in the season. That's not like a top end guy like a Justin Jefferson, for example.
I'm trying to look it up too here, because the one thing we didn't talk about is, will Levis be back this week? And I think it's still up in the air, which is probably why we didn't talk too much about it. But he got banged up in the game versus the Dolphins. Then Mason Rudolph came in, led the Titans to victory. Then they went out, if you are not remembering. But with Mason Rudolph there, I was trying to see if he got more targets without and versus Will Levis. But either way, I still wouldn't play him. But that was an interesting stat I was trying to look up.
Levis expected to be back. He was a full participant Wednesday.
Does he play though? Or do they like give him one more week because they kind of want to see Mason? I mean, the dude's been hot garbage.
It seems like they're in line to have him start. So
Okay. Sounds good.
he's probably on a short leash. Like,
See,
I don't
I
know
don't
if they
think
would bench him
I
this
think
game, but I'm sure it could be coming if he keeps doing bad. But no, he's not going to sit yet.
Gotcha. Because literally before we jumped on, I was reading that he was up in the air if he was going to play. So that's why I
Everything
was.
seems to be on track for him to go. So we'll see. I could be completely wrong. That's what usually happens after the show. We're going to check our phone and it's going to be, hey, there says no more Will Levis. But that's what always happens. Should we get to the late window, Cody?
Please. Only 4 games. Why?
Only
Let's
4
balance.
games.
Let's balance this out.
It's because they always try to make it that mini primetime kind of deal. We'll see here. Chargers at Broncos leading us off here. The Broncos have been starting to get it together with the rookie quarterback, but nothing super impressive in this one. We just kind of hope, I guess, J.K. Dobbins picks it back up after his really hot start and then, kind of starting to sputter off.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Good to see. I'm interested to see though. I don't know what it means for fantasy, but to see Justin Herbert back. Uh, he missed the game before. He was going to try to gut it through. They saved him. They kept him through the bye. What does that look like against the Broncos? Divisional matchup. Uh, to your point, this is a game that you watch on Red Zone, but you don't really want to play anybody fantasy wise for.
Exactly. Keep an eye on it for people like J.K. Dobbins. If he starts to pick it back up, he could be somebody because he's going to get fed targets. That could be good long term. And I'm keeping an eye on Quentin Johnston as well to see if he can pick back up where he left off with Herbert because he's looked like they were starting to get something together before the injury. Other than that, don't like it. I'm not going to watch it other than Red Zone. We can move on to Steelers at Raiders because the Raiders have starting quarterback news. It's Gardner Minshew hitting the bench, and Aiden O'Connell again gets his number called. It's ugly either way, honestly, for the Raiders.
Yeah, at least O'Connell is a gunslinger. They're going to be without Devontae Adams again, maybe forever. But
You sound so
he's
bad when you say it that way.
well, it's just the truth. Like
It is.
Antonio Pierce is liking Instagram posts that say Devontae Adams played his last snap as a Raider. Like, so interested to see how that one plays out. My whole point was though, he does like to throw the ball around. If you need a spot start, you could maybe look at it like a Jacoby Myers or a Trey Tucker. I feel like he's been the guy that's been getting more volume this
Trey
season,
Tucker has been, yes.
or maybe just a fun DFS play with the new quarterback we talk about all the time. Quarterback, teams change quarterbacks, not so much quarterbacks, uh, but when they do coaches, which we're going to see, there could be an uptick. This Steelers team, though, like they just play like grimy, dirty football, and just every game's going to be close. Like I don't think either of these teams go over 20. I think it comes down to field goal, last minute touchdown, something like that. Go. I think the Steelers will pull this one out just because the Raiders have been so bad. But if you tell me that the Raiders win 16-10, I wouldn't be surprised by that either.
The only reason I feel like it's hard to see the Raiders getting to 16 is because of how good the Steelers defense is. But I'm with you. Like, it's going to be an ugly, low scoring game. I'm betting the under. I don't care how low it is. And we're not going to get a lot of production out of fantasy in this one either. Not a great start to the late window. But I think the next game could be good. It is
Why
the
don't you say that one
Detroit.
for last?
Okay, cool. Not a bad one here either. It's intriguing at least. Atlanta Falcons at Carolina Panthers. We're going to see what Panthers team we get because last week, after the really strong start by Andy Dalton, they really just didn't come out and perform. But there's still hope that him and Deontay Johnson can get it back going against divisional rival.
Yeah.
Cody's very
There's
excited
hope.
about that part.
Yeah, you're trying to sell me on Panthers hype.
Selling you
pass.
on Panthers hype.
Give
He
me
wants to
the
talk about the Falcons because they have all these different wide receivers just popping off all of a sudden.
Yeah, Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, man.
Where did that
Darnell
come
Mooney.
from? Good for him. Wide
Right?
receiver 14 on the season.
I feel like most people didn't even know he went to Atlanta. And it was like everything was done as soon as the Bears hype finally died down. People want him to be good for so long. And now it's just breaking back out with Kirk Cousins. He looks good.
Yeah. Bijan struggling. Drake London's not been
Drake
great.
London's he hasn't been playing great, but he had a really good game on Thursday as well.
Yeah,
Last
so
Thursday.
I knew what you meant. But yeah, Drake London, he's coming along. Kyle Pitts had a decent week for tight ends last week. But yeah, play your Falcons, sit your Panthers. That's my advice for that one. Now we can talk about the only game that will probably matter, but it's also Lions Cowboys, and Cowboys could get steamrolled out of the building, lose 41-12 or something like they did to the opposite of what they did to the Cleveland Browns.
Yes. It's within the realm of possibility, but I don't know. The Cowboys have been very up and down as well, but this is the game where I'm expecting a lot of offense.
How many
So
times is a Decker going to come in doing this? Is this how they're all going to walk into the game?
everyone, he's going to report as eligible at least.
The
It's got
first
to be at
play.
least once in the game. Yeah, exactly. Because then they're going to have to announce it on the broadcast and be like, Taylor Decker's eligible, guys. No, there's going to be at least one play at the goal line too that it happens because it's going to be on Dan Campbell's mind that like even if they use it as a decoy, the Cowboys are going to think about it if they, do try to pull something. And it could just be a decoy play, but it's going to happen probably at least twice. First play of the game, maybe just to be like, oh, we got it right this time. And then somewhere near the goal line at least once just to make the Cowboys think about it.
Yeah, I expect to be more than that. I do think if depending on how this game goes, if it's a close one, I do think Dan Campbell can get in his own way again, similar to what happened the last time. Trying to, maybe it is the goal line, 4th and goal, and they send him in and they throw it to him, but it's covered up because they're expecting it. You know what I'm saying? Like something along those lines. I think the Lions will probably win this game. I don't really like the Cowboys. how they've been playing this year. They didn't win me over in any way, shape, or form in the delayed game against the Steelers. So I think the Lions win this one pretty easily. But if it's close, I could see the Lions costing themselves, trying to one up the Cowboys after last year's debacle.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. You can almost
You're
argue that
wrong.
with the Lions any game just because of how aggressive Dan Campbell is. I
No,
mean, if they're
I
blowing a team out, it's one way, but
no, I
it's
think
what comes with that coaching style.
right, and I completely agree. But I'm saying I think this week the aggression goes to even a higher level because of who they're playing and what happened last year.
It's the revenge factor could get in the way. Even.
Yes.
Got it. Yes. Agreed. I like it. But playing everybody in this matchup as well because I'm expecting a lot of offense here. So, one more game before we get into our Thursday night tonight game preview.
Sure. So 2 more games. Bad math.
Yeah. Hey, it's a little different. We got actives and inactives for the Thursday night game. If you're watching live, stick around for that. But Sunday night football, a lot of people trying to get this one flexed, and the games that they wanted to put in there got protected. Bengals at Giants.
Aren't we still too early in the season for flex?
No, there were talks that there was going to be, I believe it was Commanders Ravens was in the conversation, and
Oh, then
Lions Cowboys to get flexed in, but the networks protected them, so NBC didn't have a choice.
Then this must be the first week. I know there's like the first 4 or 5 weeks games can't get flexed. This must be the first week. And
Well,
geez
if it's 4 or 5
Louise.
weeks, we're in week 6, Cody.
Yeah, I said I meant like it could have been week 6 too. I'm gonna look it up after and prove to you that I'm not an idiot, but I probably am. But yeah, great. Go to bed early.
Once
Neighbors
the
isn't gonna
Bengals get
play.
up in this game, is that what you're saying?
If they do,
Fair. Bengals haven't been doing
like
too
if you
well
were,
either. We're still a lot of people treating them like a really good team, and I think they are still a solid team, but they are 1-4.
let me ask you this:
Mhm.
in a hypothetical world, you're in a Survivor League that's you're still going.
Most of them are gone. Yes.
Would you pick the Bengals in this one?
Not my first choice.
See, so maybe it will be a good game. I mean, the Giants coming off a win against the Seattle Seahawks. Cincinnati is coming off of a hard-fought division game, went into overtime. Could they be looking ahead to next week? They shouldn't be. I don't know who they play. Could we get a Sunday night trap game?
They're playing a division game against the Browns in week 7. I mean,
Nah, no trap game.
not something you're
I can't
trap
twist
game
that
out
one
of
anyway.
it.
What are your thoughts on Tyrone Tracy though? He was another hot waiver wire ad with Devin Singletary a little bit banged up and being pretty consistently not like fantastic, but a solid piece yards per carry kind of thoughts. Would you put him in your lineup this week if you need a spot start?
I would like to know more about Singletary's availability first. I know he's currently questionable. Trying to get a really quick injury status. He was limited on Thursday, so that makes it a little harder. If you hear that there's no Singletary, I really do like it. If I feel like there needs to be volume there for me to feel comfortable. If you're going to be like it's a 50-50 split between Singletary and Tracy, I don't think I like either of them.
How about in this matchup right now? You have Chase Brown or Tyrone Tracy, some guys you could probably pick up off your waiver wire, but both their counterparts are going to be there, although they'll probably be limited in Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. Which one do you go with? I know which
Between
one I go
Moss
with.
and Singletary?
No,
Oh, just between all 4.
Tracy
Oh.
and Brown, but the other 2 are playing. They're not inactive.
Brown over Tracy.
Okay. I would agree.
It's close. Toss up. But
Yeah,
Brown over
I would
Tracy.
agree. I would play Brown over Tracy in that situation as well.
I just think also when you're talking about with game script, there's a better chance the Bengals are up and running the ball to run the clock out than the Giants are. But it is a closer game than it sounds when you say Bengals Giants, like we've been saying.
Right. Then you could argue that, the Giants running back might be better because he'll get targets in garbage time with no Malik Neighbors.
with no Malik Neighbors. Wan'Dale Robinson's been stepping up a little bit. Not that I would play him. The Giants are finding ways to get a couple people involved, but no one that I would love enough. Darius Slayton actually broke out last week. Thinking about it, eight catches, 122 and a touchdown. Didn't know he even still played on the Giants, if we're being honest.
Well, how do you not know he's not on the team? What kind of podcaster about the NFL are you? You can't even know the players on people's teams.
Do you remember in the preseason we were sitting here saying, like, other than Malik Neighbors, who's even a wide receiver on the Giants, and we couldn't name him, who's been there forever, and Wan'Dale Robinson,
Yeah, I said Isaiah Hodgins, and we had to look it up. I
and he's
remember.
not
I'm
even
saying
there anymore. So,
he's on the practice squad.
huh,
See, the
okay,
more you know.
yeah, still not exciting.
No, it's not. But hopefully the game's better than we're projecting, because that is how a lot of times these play out. You think these good games, like Ravens Commanders, we think it's gonna be a really good game, might end up being one sided. Bengals Giants could be game of the year. Like
Mhm.
the NFL is so crazy, and that's what makes us love the NFL more than any other sport.
Another game that we're expecting to be good, and we really hope will be good. Cody, get your button ready. Why don't we go to a Thursday night preview? Divisional matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks, kicking off in a little less than an hour. The 49ers feel like they really need this one.
Yeah, that is true. They feel like they need this one. I mean, they have been struggling. They have been extremely banged up. Like I will give them that, but they need to win some games. This is divisional, and divisional games kind of count for two when you talk about standings. To be able to win this game would be a big boost for them. Make both teams 3-3. Hope Again, I talked about this with what team did I say it at the beginning? You asked me about, and I was like, get them to 3-3, and you're the Jets.
The Jets.
They get to 3-3, they're tied for first place. Seattle, San Francisco gets to 3-3, and they'll be tied for first place as well. So this is a big game for them. You drop two, then if you lose this game, you're 2 games behind the Seahawks in this matchup. And I don't know about you, but no Jake Moody tonight. Definitely. I'm just I don't talk about kickers very often, so I saw
No.
that and I had to bring that up. But in all honesty, for the 49ers, as banged up as they have been, they have some names you've heard of, like Charvarius Ward, Ben Barch, if you're a diehard at the conference offensive line, but they have all their key pieces back that aren't on IR. So Ayuk is gonna go, Samuel's gonna go, Kittle's gonna go. So that's a good thing for them. And then on the Seattle side, outside of Rick Woolen and Byron Murphy the second, their first round pick this year, very similar. They're pretty healthy. They're good to go. They're looking to bounce back. Maybe they took the Giants as a trap game, looking ahead to Thursday against a division opponent in a game they want to win. So I think this one should be a good game. It looks like the 49ers are going to wear their good uniforms too, which is always a fun thing on Thursday night.
I think we're getting a throwback versus throwback in this game, honestly, from looking at it.
Is that legit? I sure hope so.
The logos would tell me this, because the Seahawks put their entire social media to throwback 90s Seahawks.
Everything on NFL.com, well, they're using pictures. It's throwback Seahawks, which might be the best uniforms in the league. And the whites, I don't even know if I don't think they're throwbacks, though. They could be.
No, they might not be.
But like the blocky letter, white and
Mhm.
reds for the 49ers. So
Immaculate Thursday night uniform matchup is what we're saying.
to go on a tangent here, I miss Thursday night being I know people thought it was gimmicky just to get people to watch, but I miss there being some sort of, special occasion, whether it be throwback Thursdays or, it used to be Color Rush, right?
Mhm.
And yes, I know that caused some issues and some people got white for Color Rush and they didn't like it, but like I wish there was something on Thursday still, and I think the throwbacks would be a great idea to adapt.
I think that would be even better than Color Rush. I know the biggest argument against Color Rush is I remember it might have been a Niners Seahawks game. That was
It was
red
Bills
versus
Jets.
green.
The
It was
cones,
Bills.
the colorblind,
Yes.
Bills Jets.
Bills Jets. Thank you. I mean, I was just matching up colors. It could have been this too, very clearly, but the colorblind issue. But I would like a nice little throwback Thursday kind of vibe for a Thursday night for a full season. That would be pretty cool.
Or even if they like did something completely different, like blackout jerseys and white jersey, like it would look the same each week doing something like that. But like if they had a theme, like
Mhm.
I think that would be kind of fun. And hopefully that we can get back to doing some more of that on Thursday night. But I think this will be a good game. Looking forward to it. And I do think the 49ers bounce back and get a victory here if you're going to ask me to pick the game.
Seahawks are going to put up a fight, but I'm also going to give the 49ers an edge here. And no reason not to play everybody except maybe Juan Jennings.
Wow. Yep. That's how we're going to end it. George is going to make fun of me. I don't lie. I don't appreciate it, even though I make fun of him all the time.
I'm totally blaming that one on Tyler, not you. Welcome back.
It was me. I typed it in the chat. I did that. I had to type it from a text message into the chat so I could put it on screen.
To solve it, it was 50-50. Tyler put Juan. Cody took the S off Jennings.
Perfect.
Congratulations.
Perfect. George, can you believe we've already went almost an hour? Like, I feel like we just started.
Yeah, seriously. I feel like I just got back in rhythm with you. You want to do the show again?
Yeah, on Monday. Because that's when we're going to do the show. We'll do it on Monday, 6:55. These 5 weeks. Make sure you hit us up on our DMs or follow us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X. Until next time, I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kurth. If I can do this real quick, should I trade Brees Hall and Tank Dell for Stephon Diggs? I got Kenneth Walker, Jerome Ford, Josh Jacobs, Kai Williams. No, I would not trade Brees Hall and Tank Dell for Stephon Diggs. So that's that, and we will talk to you all next week.